here you can see how I've smashed this down inside here to flare out the top. You can see it's flared out at the top now. My next step will be to open this up. Well, it'll go in from the bottom and be pushed up. Right now it's just not going to fit. It's not the right size. So I've got to open that up quite a bit, as you can see. Almost that whole flange has to be taken out to get that to fit over there, and then we will hammer it all the way down until it hits that flared section and wedge it into there. Alright, so to get my washer or bushing to the right size, I will take it, and what I will do is I will take and run it up on one of these concrete discs, and I will show you how to do it. It's kind of difficult. Sorry, this is kind of difficult because you got to hold it with your bare hands. You can't use a glove. If your glove were to catch on this, wrap your whole arm around it, and could snap your wrist. So I just use my bare hands. It gets real hot real quick, so I got to take little spurts here and there. Alright, time to switch to the other thing. This is about as far as I can go with that one. I keep sliding over the top of it now. Actually, I think it's actually to the size it will fit on there. So, once you get to it, yeah, it fits on there. So once you get to where it fits on there, you just pound it down. So I told you once I get the washer on there, I pound it down with one of these vacuum things, and that just kind of sits over the top of it. Help assist me in pounding that down to the base. Now, you have to do it kind of in a back and forth motion or it gets binded, which I did already because I wasn't doing it back and forth, so I gotta start over here, or at least get it leveled out a little bit. I could actually put the ball in there and hammer it down. Like so. Let me try and get the camera up on the side here. There it goes. Okay. So let's see if I can do this without knocking anything over. Magnet. So that's not working very well either. So let's get rid of the ball. Try just using the plastic part of this mallet here. I'm sorry. Once you get pretty far down, you can see it's almost all the way down already. You got to turn it over and pound it down this way. So I'm going to move it up here to the vise and work from up here now. My camera doesn't want to stay in my stand very well, sorry. This time I gotta go from up here. And now I will use the big part. Because now it won't want to go down as easy. Just work it all the way around. I may have flared this one out a little more than I usually do, sitting there beating on it so much. But this is easy. If it's flared out too much, then you just put it on a belt sander or sand it down and get it all sanded smooth to where it's just a little bit above that. But this one's a little warped, so I need to take this side down a little more than the other side. So I'm going to get that plastic piece back on there. And give it some more beating. I'll get back to you in a minute. Alright, once you have it all beat down all the way, I will have to resand it because a lot of times when you beat it down you get these scratch marks along the edge which are kind of obnoxious looking, so we resand it a little bit. Then you take it and either sand it or file the top down. to get it all level here, if necessary. If there's any excess, you can use a file, or I actually take it and just put it on a belt sander and just let it, nice sound effects, on the belt sander to get it all nice and level, and that gives me the perfect spot to now fill in with the JB Weld to hold that in place. It's not going to come up ever, there's no possible way, because there's that flange we built in there. It could potentially drop down, I guess. It's pretty tight in there. As you can see, we kind of actually cut into the metal a little bit as we came down. So, especially on this side here, you can see the metal kind of shavings came up a little bit. But the JB Weld will always hold that in place on this little here. So we'll go ahead and fill that in with JB Weld, let it dry. But before we do that, we go ahead and do everything else, like put our vise on, sand it out real good, and tap it. Okay, I mentioned earlier about putting this magnet on, and basically you just run this bolt down there, and you got to get a bolt that fits inside of your magnet, so make sure you check that when you're buying your magnet and your bolts. If you don't buy the sizes I said exactly, if that bolt doesn't fit inside there, it won't work. So the hard part now is you have no head to the bolt to turn, so you've got to turn the nut, not the head. And here's how we do that. Alright, so then I take my screwdriver, my little screwdriver, and I just feed it in here and spin this down, and as it gets close to the base, the screwdriver becomes a pinch point for the nut, and you just use the base as a turning. See, if I just spin the base, it won't grab it. Actually, I hang it up pretty tight already, but if you put the screwdriver in there, it's got something to grab against. So now that's tight on there. And here's the thing that I always find, is that this is not perfectly flat against the magnet, but it doesn't matter because nothing's leaking out the base anyway. I haven't found a way to get a perfectly flat bottom to it, especially with that washer in there. So then that's it for that part. And I just cut this off with a hacksaw, as I've mentioned before. This takes a little bit of time. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the vise so it isn't shaking as much on me. Makes life a little easier. I'm kind of jumping around there because I'm not in the vise, so let me get in the vise. And from here it's easy because now it's in the vise, so it stays perfectly still. And it doesn't matter how tight you get the vise on this because you're going to cut it off anyway. So I'll cut this off and we'll be right back. Okay, so after you file it off, you get all these little file shavings on here. Lovely, right? They kind of get stuck in there because the magnet doesn't want to let them go. But the problem now is that little bit of part where it breaks off. Right there will scratch the heck out of anything you put the stove on, so you do have to take a file to it and get rid of that last little part right there. You don't want that scratching up a table or something, or if you're using it at the house, I mean. So we're going to go ahead and get a file and file that off now. And of course that it doesn't help my zoom in. That does create more filings, metal shavings, but they all just kind of affix to the bottom of your magnet. Not much you can do about it. You can't dust them off, so they just get stuck in there.